Hello and welcome. I'm a hotel AI expert, and I'm really pleased to welcome all of you, the students of Europe Hotel School, to your online learning journey. In hotel sales, hearing an objection can feel like you've just hit a wall. But what if it's not a wall at all? What if it's actually a door? Today, we're going to explore the art of handling objections, a skill that can turn those potential deal breakers into really strong, lasting partnerships.
So let's start with this core idea, because it changes everything. It's so easy to hear an objection as a simple no, right? But that's not what's happening. An objection is actually a sign of interest. I mean, think about it. It means your client is engaged enough to really dig into the details. They're basically inviting you into a deeper conversation to get the answers they need.
All right, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll talk about reframing our whole mindset with the objection opportunity. Then, we'll walk through a super practical 4-step response process. After that, we'll get into the foundation of confidence. And finally, we'll tie it all together to the real goal here, building enduring partnerships.
Okay, let's start with our mindset. Because honestly, the secret to handling objections isn't about having some perfect, witty comeback. It's all about how you see the situation from the very beginning.
You know, this slide shows two very different paths. On one hand, you have the instinctive reaction, which is often defensive. We feel like it's personal, and we rush to offer discounts or concessions. But the professional approach, it's completely different. You stay calm, you get curious, and you see that objection as a chance to understand what the client really needs.
So why do these objections even come up in the first place? Well, it's almost never a personal attack. More often than not, it's about what's going on in the client's world. Maybe they're facing pressure from their boss to justify costs, or maybe we just haven't explained the full value of what we're offering. Understanding this lets us approach the conversation with empathy, not defensiveness.
So, now that we have the right mindset, how do we actually put it into practice? Well, this next section gives us a really clear, repeatable framework for turning a potential conflict into a productive, constructive dialogue.
And here it is. Acknowledge, explore, clarify, and respond. It sounds simple, I know, but this 4-step process is incredibly powerful. It completely shifts the dynamic from a confrontation to a collaboration. So let's start with the first, and I'd argue the most important step. Step 1 is to acknowledge. Before you say anything else, you have to show the client that you've heard them. A simple phrase like, "I understand you're concerned about the budget," immediately brings their guard down. It communicates respect, and it just transforms the tone of the whole negotiation. You're not agreeing with them, you're just validating their perspective.
Now, that brings us to the big one, the objection we all hear the most often. In your experience, what is it? I think we can all take a pretty good guess.
Yep, it's price. It is the most common and, let's be honest, often the most challenging objection to handle. But here's the crucial point. The professional response is not to immediately jump to a discount. Doing that just devalues your offering. Instead, you need to reframe the entire conversation.
So how do you do that? Well, when a client objects to the price, your job is to pivot the discussion to value. Remind them of what that price actually gets them. The consistent service, the operational reliability, that superior guest experience. See, price is just a number. Value is the solution to their problem. Now, responding this way takes confidence, and that confidence doesn't come from just winging it. It comes from solid, thorough preparation. This is where the real work gets done, long before you ever walk into a negotiation. These right here are the pillars of that confidence. You have to know your hotel's unique value inside and out. You've got to understand the market and where you stand against your competitors, and crucially, you need strong relationships with your internal teams so you know exactly what you can and cannot promise. This preparation, it's your foundation.
And a huge part of that foundation is transparency. Look, if you can't meet a request, it is always better to explain why honestly than to make a promise you can't keep. A transparent no builds way more long-term trust than a disingenuous yes. It preserves your credibility and manages everyone's expectations.
And all of this leads to the true goal. Because handling objections isn't just about closing one deal. It's about building the foundation for a long-term partnership. That's the real prize.
And here's the payoff. When you handle objections like a pro, you build immense client trust. You align everyone's expectations from the start, and this dramatically reduces the risk of misunderstandings or problems down the road. You're not just signing a contract, you're creating a true partnership.
So, let's bring it all together. The central theme today is this:
Objections are not roadblocks, they are vital checkpoints. They're opportunities to clarify, to reinforce your value, and to actually strengthen the relationship with your client. In a way, they're a gift.
So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you hear an objection, how are you going to turn that potential no into a negotiation checkpoint? Thank you for your time.